Hi, how are you? I am wanting to share some information with you today that I think will be helpful. It's about relationships. It's been coming up a lot for me in my life in terms of like helping other clients and even in my own life. First of all, I just want to start by letting everyone know that it's been a super high energy week. Yesterday was a really high energy day, and most people felt that. And people have been, sleeping extra or not sleeping, or old triggers are coming up, and life is just a mess. And it's actually part of a longer energetic cycle that's very intense. I can't remember the exact dates, but it was like mid March to mid April, I think, or beginning of March to beginning of April. I'll have to look that up and share it. But regardless, just know that you're not crazy. When these higher energy frequencies come to the earth, they are assisting us. So it feels like crap when you're, feeling through this stuff and having triggers and old fights come up. But we have to like really flip our perspective because it's actually for us. So instead of looking at it like, oh my God, I can't believe, I have to deal with this crap. It should be like, oh, thank God this crap is coming up for me to deal with. Because if you keep it in your body, you're going to, over time, create disease. And before it turns into disease, it's just discomfort. It's just something that's going to continue to be triggered over and over and over again. So when you see these patterns that come around in your life over and over again, and you're not sure how to get out of them, these high energy days when like something big happens, that's the time to really pay attention. Like, what is this trying to teach me? And you can do that by asking, like giving yourself some time alone and just, really sitting with yourself, with your feelings, with the situation and the thoughts that you're having about it, and just asking, like, what is the meaning of this? Why does this keep showing up in my life? What is it trying to teach me? And this ties into relationships because one thing that I've learned in my own relationship, which I've been married for almost 12 years. My husband is a wonderful man, and we've had a really great marriage, but there have been times where we've struggled, just like anybody in a marriage. Like sometimes it gets to the point where like you don't think you're ever going to be on the same page, and you really have to work for that and communicate, and figure out your differences. And really it comes down to self-responsibility, like owning your own shit, because we always want to blame it on the other person, the blame game, right? We never want to take responsibility for what's going on. And we kind of on, a subconscious level or a mind level, we know that it's a mixture of both, that, takes two to tango, so to speak, and that everyone has a little bit of fault in the game. But what truly changes the entire situation is taking full responsibility. So, if we give away half of the responsibility to the other person, then it's very easy to stay in these patterns because we don't have to take responsibility. We can say, well, I'm dealing with my stuff, but you're not. And so it's your fault and it's still not working. And what's going on? And you just continue to repeat the cycle. Whenever I have taken full responsibility, even when my mind was like, it's all his fault, it's all his fault, he did it all. Even if like I had a tape recorder in the room and it looked like he was being the biggest jerk to me on the planet, right? Like anyone would have taken my side if they saw what had happened. Every time I went in my room alone, meditated on what happened and kind of really dissected in my head, how am I feeling and where is this feeling coming from? Because yes, it's coming from the fight, but it's also coming from somewhere else because it's too big. Like this fight wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, why did I react this way? What is the feeling, right? And so one of the situations that is in my mind right now, which has similarly happened over and over with me taking the full responsibility and then changing the reality. But this particular time, I had to own that I wasn't feeling good enough. And that's one of my core wounds, not feeling good enough. Something that has followed me since I was a kid. I'm sure it's because I used to get spanked. I don't know. Yelled at, like my dad was old school. And so I just never feel good enough. And so as I've gone through this journey and I've learned how to take care of myself and how to fill my cup first and all of those, cliche things that actually change your life, it's been a journey of like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, until I've been able to really understand all the aspects that I needed to understand to grow into or grow through these patterns and these old energies that I was holding on to for so long. So on this particular day, I sat there thinking how, it stemmed from not feeling good enough, but really what came to my awareness when I asked, why does this keep coming up? The first thought that came to my mind was that I had been ignoring myself the past couple of days. I kept not doing my self-care stuff, not doing any movement in the morning, not painting when I felt like painting. Instead, I was spending hours at the computer editing. And then, from a depleted state, taking care of my family. Because I had been so good at self-care, I could get away with that longer now. Like I could get away with it for a couple of days before something bad happened, right? And so here I am, like the third day into not taking care of myself, still feeling like I'm good, I'm high vibe. And I had set an intention the night before. A friend of mine had said something about like an entitlement energy that like got my attention, and I was like, I don't think I'm having entitlement energy. Like I don't feel like I'm entitled to things, but I was like, if there is, I kind of said a little prayer and was like, if there is, let me see it, like show it to me. I'm open to learning. And then I think there was something else that day. I can't remember now. Maybe it will come to me. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and I realize I haven't self-cared in 2 days, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't take care of myself before I went down to interact with him. So I went down to interact with him looking for love and connection when I didn't give myself love and connection first. I was lacking in love and connection energetically when I went down to interact with my husband to gain love and affection from him like a need. Because of that, and because I'm so open to healing and I asked to heal, he reacted in a way that like seemed completely out of character for him, seemed completely like unacceptable for the situation. Like I didn't even do anything. And it was like this very bizarre thing where like I got triggered back, and then I tried to walk away, and then he doesn't like that because that triggers him. And it was like this, it blew up into this stupid argument. And I like went in my room and like sat with all of this stuff. And then I realized that the reason that he had snapped at me was because I said something about my son being mad because his friends couldn't come over. He was mad at me. And I just said it out of conversation, like, oh yeah, Carter's annoyed with me again, blah, blah, blah. And again, looking for love and connection, like, what am I going to talk about? And I choose the one thing that would trigger him, because then he said, well, did you say they could come over? And I said, well, no, not really. Like, I kind of said that maybe they could, but that was because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. And he's like, well, you need to be more clear. Like, you shouldn't have said that. And it was like this harsh response where I was like, wait, why are you fighting with me right now? Like, and I couldn't even consciously comprehend what was happening. But I was mad. Like, I got triggered at him being mad at me. And when I looked at it later, when I was sitting alone, I was like, oh my God, that's my entitlement energy, at least a piece of it, because I felt entitled to him taking my side. Like, we're parents together. Like, we're the parents and they're the kids, and I automatically get your support. And no, I don't. And so that allowed me to see that energy that I had asked to see specifically and feel through, like, oh, okay, I can see where I'm entitled, and accept that about myself and understand and transmute the energy. And the other piece of it that I couldn't remember before was that I was trying to heal over a longer period of time the energy of being irresponsible. And I was mentally thinking like irresponsible in terms of like staying on task and having routines and doing my self-care and stuff like that. But when I sat there, the next thought that came into my mind as I was like trying to unravel this situation that had happened was that I was actually being irresponsible in how I was parenting because I wasn't being clear. And he called me out on it, and I didn't like that, and I didn't want to own that. And so I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, so there's threefold here. Like all of these things, this is why this situation happened so that I could pay attention to the feelings that came up, pay attention to the triggers, the anger, the things that didn't feel good. So I could ask my body, like, what is going on here? Why am I feeling like this? Because it would be so easy for me to say, I'm feeling like this because he's being a jerk. I'm feeling like this because he yelled at me for no reason. I'm feeling like this because I came down just to be loving and make a connection with my husband, and I got yelled at for it. So easy to say that, right? Anyone would take my side on that. But instead, because of the path I've walked and because of the things I've transmuted, I went and did this work, and I sat there and I figured it all out and was like, oh. And when I got to the root of it and felt through it, I wasn't upset anymore, like at him, because it wasn't his fault that I like was vibrating at this level of like, you have to mirror me now. Like, even though you're not usually a jerk, here I am projecting this energy onto you to show me like a mirror what's going on inside of me. That's not his fault that I did that to him, even though it was his voice and his brain that said the stuff. That's how we have to look at it. And it sounds crazy, right? And I'm not saying like if you're being abused or anything that you should stay there. Absolutely not. But when you're safe in a relationship and you think everything's the other person's fault, I would implore you to go within and see what within you is attracting that behavior, because we give away our power all the time in situations like that. Now, if I were to go with my old feelings of it's all your fault, and he's going with the same old feelings of no, it's all your fault, that could have lasted for 3 days, could have lasted a week, like where we would have been like being cordially nice to each other, but still under the surface kind of pissed off. That's happened in our marriage in the past. And I'm sure it happens with some of you guys. So by me being courageous and willing and self-responsible and deciding I'm going to go take full responsibility for this. Like, even though I know it takes two, whatever, like I also know that I have more power than that for what I'm experiencing. I have all the power for what I'm experiencing. I don't have to give my power away to what he said or did or how he made me feel. So I did that, took the power as I felt through those deeper energies that had been coming up to be healed and reconciled them. Like basically I just accepted and, understood and allowed the bodily feeling and, cried my last cry. And then I felt clear. It was no longer being suppressed. I had let it go and I felt clear. And so the next time that I saw him, he was a completely different person, because I didn't have these energies in me anymore. I wasn't projecting judgment on him, and I wasn't projecting, hurt or anything. I was projecting acceptance and love. And I said to him, hey, like, I'm sorry about what happened earlier. It was confusing for me in the moment, and it really felt like it was all your fault. And while I don't like that you talk to me that way at all, I wanted you to know that I did some work on myself and kind of realized why it happened. And I explained to him the 3 things that I just explained to you. And I said, and I'm owning that. Like, those vibrations were in me and it caused a reaction out of you. And so I can't blame that all on you. And it completely diffused the situation, and we were able to connect emotionally without that barrier of like hurt and anger and whatever, and move on and up level to our next relationship and our next layer of issues that we had to get through. And that happens. It's gonna happen when you're in a relationship, because they're your closest, clearest mirror. They're your trusted person. And so when you're in a relationship, you really have to look at all of the things that you hate about that person, or that annoy you, or that come up as a trigger, as a learning opportunity for yourself. And when you do that, you're able to flip your reality like a switch. I've done it over and over again, not just with my husband, but with my kids, with extended family members, with random work situations. Like, I will just change the energy of what I'm thinking and feeling about it, my intention behind how I want the situation to turn out and why I want it to turn out that way. And every single time it works in my favor, every single time. So, don't give your power away. We think we don't have the power to change what someone else is doing, and it's really easy to live in that victim blame story, be the victim and blame someone else for what's going on, because it's true. You can see it with your eyes, you can tell. But the truth, the real truth, is that you have the power inside of you to create your reality. And when you own that power, and when you unravel the things that are in the way of you enacting that power, you prove it to yourself. Your life will literally change before your eyes. So I hope that this helps. I really love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.